Welcome to today's video where we are going to dive into a super important topic if you are dealing with mold toxicity or mold illness, mold exposure. And that is the specific binders you can use for a mold detox protocol. Now, if you didn't see the other video, I did several videos explaining what is mold toxicity, some of the common symptoms that you can use to kind of identify if that's what you're dealing with, along with some specific testing. And then I also share my test results, which I'll put the links to those videos in the description below in case you haven't seen those. So today we're going to talk about one of the steps in doing a mold detox protocol is binders. Binders are super important. So what happens is the body often gets overloaded or overwhelmed when it's exposed to mold and mycotoxins. And one of the tools we use in integrative health is binders. And specifically what these are supplements that do exactly what they sound like. They bind to the toxins in your body so that your body can eliminate them more safely. So what I try to explain to people, and all of this is very dependent on the type of mold that you have. Most mycotoxins, which are the toxins that the mold releases, get stored in your fat. So, what a binder does is it helps pull out a lot of where those mycotoxins are planted in your body so that your body can flush them out properly. Without binders, sometimes it can overload the liver, the kidney, the sinuses, and the gut. And then what happens on top of the adrenals, which I talk about in the other video, the body can't keep up with detoxing all of it. There are a lot of different things to do in a mold detox protocol. Binders is one of them. There's other steps you can take that you have to be very careful of the process on how you do that. And I'll do other videos on that. But so specifically, we're going to talk about binders. And I'm going to talk to you in particular about when I am working with clients, the brand that I like to use because it is practitioner grade, third party tested, like super high quality, specifically for detox and mold issues like this. And that product brand is called Cellcore. So, what makes them different than some of the others? There's a lot of other things you can find about binding to mold, like activated charcoal, bentonite clay, all these things. The reason why I like Cellcore, and I'm going to get into in this video, is because some of those other ones will also bind to all of your minerals, all of your supplements, your food. They bind to everything. Where I have found better results with clients with the protocol that Cellcore does. And as I'm going through this video, if you are wanting to order these, you do have to do it through a practitioner. So I have made these available in the description so that you can order them directly and then I can get those to you. So what's the best binder for mold? Is there something better than charcoal and clay? Like I mentioned, that's what this video is going to cover. So before we get started, keep in mind this is for educational purposes only, and you should work with a qualified practitioner before you begin any type of detox protocol. So what are binders and why do they matter? A binder is a substance. Typically, it's made up of things like fulvic acid, different clays that are used almost like a magnet in how it attaches to toxins. In this case, specifically talking about mold and mycotoxins or biotoxins, it helps your body eliminate. And instead of reabsorbing all of that and recirculating, it flushes them out. Now, everybody always gets worried. They're like, if I take binders, is it going to give me diarrhea and laxatives? It doesn't really work that way. You do excrete these things, these toxins, through your bowels, your urine, through sweat, just like you excrete anything else. The binders just help offload a lot of that from your body. So when your body is exposed to mold or byproducts of mold, like the mycotoxins, it can create a toxin burden on the body. And systems like your liver, your gut, your kidneys, your lymphatics are all having to deal with that. So binders just help lighten that load and take that off the body and get it out more efficiently. Specifically in mold and mycotoxin protocols, binders help ensure that all that stuff is mobilized and moved out of your tissues or in your gut, which is where a lot of mold gets stuck, rather than being recycled. So I always like using binders. I typically start people on binders as the very first step because it does take time for your body to get used to it. In the situation of mold, more is not necessarily better. So, all my type A people out there, like myself, that you're like, just tell me what to do and I'm going to get it done. That's not how this is gonna work, unfortunately, because if you try to detox too fast, you will have a lot of the issues of extreme fatigue, histamine issues, insomnia, the heart palpitations, the dizziness, the vertigo. All those things will come back because it is too much on the body at once. So you do have to be very careful about how you do this. And this is why I said, like, working with a practitioner is going to be your best way. So, binders help making sure there's proper drainage, gut motility. And yeah, if you didn't see the other videos that I did, that's pretty much what we talk all about. First step in anything before we get into binder, and I have a couple of the brands and products that I used for my own protocol that I recommend to a lot of my clients, is your body is never going to fully heal until you actually get out of the environment that the mold is in. So even if you're starting binders and you're doing all the protocols that I'm going to talk about in the video and the following videos, you're still going to have a problem if you are continuing to breathe in those mold spores, because mold is airborne. Sometimes you don't even see it, but you are still breathing it in and your body is still having to fight it off. So you have to first get out of the moldy environment before you even start this stuff. All right, at the beginning of this, I talked about the company that I typically use is a company called Cellcore. So Cellcore is specifically a practitioner grade company. I really like them because they specialize in digestive and detox support. So one of the main ones, this is one of the binders. And like I said, the link to all this stuff, you can order these, is in the description below. This is the more advanced binder. So this is carboxy. So I do not typically put people on this as step one. This is more what's going to happen after you've been on the biotoxin binder, which is more of a beginner binder for a few months and you're starting to feel better. So the biotoxin binder is designed for biotoxins, including mycotoxins from mold, ammonia. If you've got some other toxins from the environment going on, that can really help. But this company focuses on mold, Lyme, co-infections, and they specialize in the detox terrain support. So that's why I use them a lot. So carboxy and biotoxin, this is one of the binders that I always put people on, or recommend putting people on. So what they use for the binder that's different than your typical activated charcoal or bentonite clay is they use a bioactive carbon technology that is humic shale, which is humic and fulvic acid. When you use this, you're going to get the best results taking it away from food. But I like them because theirs doesn't necessarily bind to all of your other minerals. So some of the issues that, like, I've seen people deal with when they start binders for mold is it binds to all of your minerals, your sodium, potassium, magnesium, all those things, that you can end up with a lot of electrolyte imbalances and feeling worse than better. It's not that that's not still possible. I have just found the best results with the protocol for this. So like I said, I'll put the link for carboxy, and then the other one is the biotoxin binder. Now, when you start this, you always start slow. So when you're doing the biotoxin binder, typically the goal is you want to work up to 2 capsules 2 times a day. However, do not start with that. What I always recommend to my clients is start with 1 capsule 1 time a day for about a week. See how you feel. If you feel better, you can start to increase until you have a pretty good threshold. But if you overdo it, you are going to have a lot of those symptoms. So that's one of the main binders that I like using. The company does really well with making sure that everything is clean. They specialize in this stuff. The other part of binders, there's a lot of birds out here. The other part of binders that you can use too, that I really like incorporating when it comes to mold detox, is specific probiotic strains. So not just any probiotic. I talk about this in the other mold video. Different types of mold need different types of probiotic strains. One of the biggest ones is Saccharomyces boulardii. That is a big detox probiotic strain specifically for mold that I have seen my clients get really good results in. That's also Cellcore. So they have one called CT Biotic, digestive and detox support. They have the S. boulardii, Saccharomyces boulardii, but then they also have some really good lactobacillus, the bifido, I never know how you say this, bifidobacterium, and then they have some spore-based ones. So the Bacillus coagulans, Bacillus clausii, but then you get again that humic shale with the humic and fulvic acid technology. These are specific to digestion and detox. So this is my favorite. CT Biotic is one of my favorite probiotics to recommend to clients anytime you're dealing with digestive or detox issues because of the specific strains, the amounts, and that it has that fulvic and humic acid in it as well. So I'll also put a link to this. Like I said, these are practitioner grade supplements, so super high quality, not something you're going to go order on Amazon, not something you're going to go get at like the grocery store. And honestly, I could go on a whole other rant of that, guys. Be careful. If you're going to order your supplements from Amazon, like do your research. You need to make sure you are getting practitioner grade, nutraceutical grade, third party tested supplements, not just things that are on Amazon, because there's a lot of issues with mold toxicity from supplements coming on Amazon because those supplements are not tested. Anybody can sell supplements on Amazon, so be careful. What separates Cellcore? By the way, Cellcore is not paying me for any of this. I'm just giving you educational videos. But what separates Cellcore from the other binders and why I typically go with them is the bioactive carbon technology. So it's the blend of the fulvic humic acid plus long, medium, and short chain carbons, which does a lot more systemic binding, not just gut binding. So, for example, like the biotoxin binder that I mentioned is the first step. This would be your second step, is designed specifically for mycotoxins. We've got all kinds of birds out here, not just in the gut. So they bind to things in the entire body where a lot of the other binders will only bind to what's going on in your gut. So, systematic versus gut action. Traditional binders of clay and charcoal often mainly operate in the gut area, where Cellcore's binders tend to reach beyond the gut and into more of your entire system cellular circulation to help with your cellular energy, repair, and mitochondrial health as well. Why this matters? So, if you are brand new to mold toxicity, trying to do a mold detox, trying to heal yourself, it can get very overwhelming, and there's so many people telling you all these different things to do, of sit in the sauna, do enemas, take activated charcoal, bentonite clay, take this RX prescription. By the way, the prescription that is typically prescribed for mold, I have not seen too many great results for people with that. I have found better results with this, and I would recommend doing something like this with a binder to get started. So focus on binders that you, even if you don't choose to go with Cellcore, that's totally fine, but focus on binders that follow the entire system and cellular repair, and they're not just binding in your gut. So gut versus systematic binding is super important. Get yourself out of the moldy environment. That's super important. But overall, like I said, you have to address the mold exposure. You have to do remediation. Bigger picture, I'm going to do another video about the best supplements and nutrients if you're dealing with mold toxicity. That's going to include the drainage you need to do in your liver and kidneys, making sure you have good bowel motility, you're having bowel movements, and how to kind of structure all this as a protocol outside of just binders, because there's a lot that goes into this. It is a very complex process. If you would like to work with me as your practitioner to help you with a mold detox protocol, I have links where you can book a call with me and we can work on coming up with a personalized protocol, figuring out what's going on and that. Otherwise, if that's not an option for you, I would say I recommend starting with the binder. Then, as you've gotten more adjusted to the binder, then you can increase that dosage. And when you order Cellcore products, they send you like a little dosage kit. And I normally give that to people too, of how to do it. But as the overall protocol, You do, after you're doing binders, need to make sure that your liver and your kidneys and lymphatic system are properly draining, and then that you're also having really good bowel movements. Because, like I said, our urine, our bowels are where we flush out everything that the body is binding to. So, binders can be taken away, best taken away from meals, other supplements, and medications. You are going to get the best results. I always say if you wake up in the morning, you eat your breakfast, you take all of your supplements, vitamins, if you are on medication, wait at least 2 hours for using the binder just to make sure that nothing is interacting, but also making sure that you are getting the full benefit of it. Always make sure you're drinking enough water. Water is going to be super important in helping those kidneys flush out mold mycotoxins, but also in helping the binder work properly. Sweating every day. I know if you're dealing with mold toxicity, fatigue is a huge thing. If you can even just get outside and sweat, your skin is one of the largest detox organs you have. And through testing, it's actually been proven that those mycotoxins do come out in your sweat. So, sweating, hydrating, having bowel movements, all of these things are going to help offload the body. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will put all the links in the description to be able to order the Cell Core binders, as well as some of my other recommendations for using the mold detox or a mold detox protocol. Cell Core even has a kit, a mycotoxin kit that I have a lot of people do once they've been on binders for about a month. I'll put that in there too that you can check out. But overall, if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more on integrative health and wellness, mold detox, mycotoxins, and everything you need to know about supplements. Drop me a comment with any questions you have about this, and I will see you in the next video.